My name is Father Mike Schmitz, and I'm a priest here on campus. So we're going to kind of follow you're going to follow your notes a little bit. This is going to be one of those situations where it'll say something like introduction, theology, the study of God. And then you're not going to move forward in your notes for the next 20 minutes, just FYI. You're like, wait, where is he now? Is he gone to the fourth page? No, he's still on bullet number 1. If it's really confusing to say, where are we on the schedule? And then, or on the outline? And we'll do our best to figure out where we are. So a little background. Oh yeah, shuffle. No. Good. You got no, I want your microphone to work more than I want. You go wherever. Okay, a little background. As we start talking about theology, show of hands, how many have heard the term theology of the body? You can raise some hands. Okay, I guess. You registered. So, it's on the website. How many of you, before we went through this, TOB basics page, how many of you would say, I feel pretty comfortable describing to a stranger who's never heard what theology of the body is? Good. That's really good. So you might know, since you've heard the phrase theology of the body, where that comes from. Back in the late 70s, 1979, John Paul II was elected Pope. He had been working with a lot of college students and working with a lot of married couples. And in the course of working with young people and in the course of working with married couples, one of the things he realized is that the beauty and the reality and truth of what God has called us to and has revealed to us about us, particularly about our sexuality and about relationships, has largely gone not unknown, but unshared. Because the church has known it and has tried to communicate it. But John Paul II realized he was talking to these people who really wanted to be faithful. They really wanted to have relationships that were giving them life. But as you probably know, a lot of times our relationships are the biggest wound in our lives, as opposed to the thing that lifts us up and gives us the most life. And so he worked with all these young people, working with all these couples. He developed over the course of personal experience as well as his own study and his own prayer, this awareness and this understanding of God's plan, not only for us as human beings, for body and soul, for male and female, but also for relationships. When he got elected Pope in 1979, he had an incredible platform to be able to say, okay, world, this is the beauty of God's plan. And he took the next 5 years, virtually every Wednesday, for the next 5 years, he would go out into St. Peter's and he would give a talk. And that talk was the fruit of years and years and years of being a human being, of being a priest, of being someone who was in other people's lives and seeing all these things, and of being someone super close to God. And for the next, as I said, 5 years, almost every Wednesday, he would add a little bit more to this presentation of what it is to be human, what it is to be body and soul, what it is to be male and female, what it is to be made for love. And we've taken that whole thing and you kind of combine it, or you consolidate it, you put it together in an orderly fashion, and that's the theology of the body. And so I want to give that background because it's important to understand that what we're going to talk about today is not what you like. It's not a philosophy. It's not a polemic. It's not just an argument. It's a theology, and we probably know what theology means. Theology means the study of God. And so what we're going to take as kind of our starting point is that God exists. That's not going to be something we try to establish right now. We're going to take as our starting point that God exists. We're also going to take as our starting point that not only does God exist, but he's revealed himself to us. And that God has revealed himself to us in his word. That God has revealed himself to us through the Bible and in the church. So if you're like, but wait a second, I don't know about, when are you going to get around to proving that God revealed himself in the Bible? That is another day, but it's not this day. So we just want to make sure that we all understand that this is theology, study of God, that we're taking as our starting point. Scripture, we're treating it as if it's true because we truly believe that it truly is God's revelation of himself to us. And so we're going to look at some scripture stuff throughout the course of the day as that's evidence for us as believers. Hope that makes sense. All
All right. So I'm afraid to move, actually. So, at least tell Heather gets here. I'm going to stay right here. So the other thing is, this is in regard to sexuality, human sexuality, marriage, all of that. It's very important. It's life-changing. When I discovered theology, when I encountered it, my wife and I were 6.5 years into our marriage, and it was not going well, but we didn't know why. We couldn't figure it out. We wanted to have a good love life and a good marriage and all that. We just couldn't make it work. And we discovered theology of the body, and so it pertained to us. It healed our marriage, but it's on a greater level. It's important for the understanding of mankind in general. So this is in regard to sexuality, of course, but it's on a deeper and almost a more important level. Before you can interact with somebody else, you have to first understand yourself. And I'm not sure if this quote is in their notes or not, but it's an illusion to think we can build a true. Is that in there? You know? No, it's not. It is an illusion to think that we can build a true culture of human life if we do not accept and experience sexuality and love and the whole of life according to their true meaning and their close interconnection. So the idea that it's absurd to think that you're going to even build a relationship, let alone a society, if you don't just first understand who you are in this world, why you're here, what the human person was made to be, even before all the complexities of sex and interpersonal relationships, just you. You have to first understand what you're doing here. And so then, that's what John Davidson was getting at as well, is just as we hope to do today, is to begin that process of you just understanding who you are first before it can ripple out and affect your sex life and your marriage and your dating and your workplace. It first has to just impact you and give you the answers to why you're here.
And that's interesting. The next quote, the first quote I guess we have of the day on your sheets is that the choices is from John Paul II. Whenever you see TOB, that means theology of the body. If you see LF, that means something else. CCC, catechism. But this first quote, the choices and actions of men and women take on all the weight of human existence in the union of the two. Now, John Paul II has an interesting way of speaking. But think of, if you break that down, the choices and actions of men and women take on all the weight of human existence in the union of the two. Basically, what he is saying is he's saying that the way we live out marriages, in particular, even the way we live out the sexual relationship within marriage, has all the weight of human existence. This will determine, in many ways, how we approach other people who are not our spouse. This will determine how we approach children. This will determine how we approach the rest of life. This will even determine how we approach God. Because the weight of how I approach my spouse in the most intimate moment of our most intimate relationship reveals something about how I approach the world. Now, for years, I think the church was cast with this idea or this image that we just say, don't do it. When it comes to sex, it's oh, sex is so good and so amazing and so holy, just don't do it or go to hell. That's kind of that. Sometimes that seems, in fact, I remember, you go to a chastity talk or something, and basically at the end of the day, sometimes it was, okay, so this is something so beautiful, something so good, but if you do it, you'll get a disease and die. Or this is something so good, or all you have to do is tell someone not to do it. In fact, kind of personal story, my older brother and his wife, his name is Mark, her name is Jen, and I love them, they're so awesome. They got married a bunch of years ago, and so exciting, it's just beautiful. About a month after they got married, they were living out in Washington State. About a month after they got married, they came back to Minnesota, and I'm this is so awesome, they're here, this is amazing. And also, he's in the military, he doesn't have a lot of money to fly across the country to come back to Minnesota just for the weekend, but that's pretty cool. I happy to see them. They got in really late on Friday night, so I didn't see them until Sunday morning. I didn't even see them Sunday morning. I heard my brother and his wife come upstairs saying, hey, Mom, can you come on up here? So my mom went upstairs. A couple minutes later, she comes out, she's crying, and find out that they are, I think, 4 or 5 months pregnant at this point. So the math, they got married a month ago. At this point now, they're 4 or 5 months pregnant. And so we wanted to fly home and tell you guys that this is how far we are along. And my mom, she had this emotion, right? Because she's like, a life, but I'm like, what did you do? But you're married, but I know, but it's now and later. And she was so torn up, this whole thing. And so at one point, when you're so frustrated, you need someone to blame. So she kind of looked around and like, who can I mark you as you're gonna be a good dad? Jennifer, God, I can't believe you. And so she went to my dad. And I remember her saying this. She looked at my dad and she said, well, Peter, why don't you just tell him to keep it in his pants? And my dad's like, oh, I guess I didn't think to say that. It probably would have helped a lot, you know? Because I think that's sometimes the image that we have from the church is like, the church just basically says, okay, you guys, all we have to offer you is this thing that kind of is, it taps into the deepest desires of your heart, is just don't do it. That is called repression. That's not very helpful. The world says, no, listen, that thing that's in you, just go do it. It is both simultaneously amazing and means nothing. So indulge in it. And these seem to be the only kind of two things that are presented to us. The world says this is amazing but means nothing, so indulge in it. And the church says this is amazing and it means something, so don't do it. So is it just indulgence or repression, or is there something else? And this TOP, I think, is something else. In fact, one of the quotes, I hate to make you shuffle some more papers, but there's a quote or a page that has just a quote on it, and it's a quote from St. John Paul the Great. It starts out, man cannot live without love. And if you don't want to find it, I'll recite it, or read it to you. It says, man cannot live without love. But without love, he remains a being that is incomprehensible for himself. His life is senseless if love is not revealed to him. If he does not encounter love, if he does not experience it and make it his own, if he does not participate intimately in it. This, as already has been said, is why Christ the Redeemer fully reveals man to himself. So let's put this in a new category. That what we're going to talk about today is about, like, okay, if I'm made for love, if man cannot live without love, like what is love? No. I don't know. You guys know that one? What is love?
Okay, just pause for the future. Show of hands. If we had paused and then done that, who would have recognized it?
Dang it!
Next year. Coming back.
So man cannot live without love. Yeah, you know, it's interesting though, because I think sometimes we hear that, man cannot live without love. Without love, he remains a being incomprehensible to himself. His life is senseless. If he doesn't experience love. And we might think, like, wait a second, wasn't he a priest? Like, wasn't he a celibate guy? What's he mean? You can't not live without love? Because in our day, a lot of times, I think in our culture, we've taken this massive concept of love and we've reduced it to a certain kind of love. We've reduced it to romantic love. Then we've taken romantic love and we've reduced that down to sex. So it goes from love to romantic love to sex. And so if we read it through like modern eyes or through maybe our culture's eyes, what that would sound like is the Pope saying, man cannot live without sex. Without sex, he's a mystery to himself. His life is incomprehensible to himself if he does not participate intimately in sex. And you're like, going like, so Jean Paul, are you like really confused? Do you not know who you are? Because that's not what he's saying. He's saying love. You know, in the ancient world, the Greek world, there were four words for our one word love, and maybe some of you know this already. 4 kinds of love that the Greeks kind of established. And this is not in your notes, but you can write it in your notes if you like. The first kind of love is called storge. S-T-O-R-G-E, storge. And storge simply is the love of affection. It's good. It's wonderful. C.S. Lewis says it's like if you're eating Chinese food, it's the rice that's in the meal. Because it's everywhere. It's in every dish, right? The rice is there in almost every dish. And the storge is like that. In all of our lives, we have all this love for stuff. So I have storge. I have love for pizza. I have storge. I have love for, the smell of my home. I have love for my mom. I have love for my dog. I have love for my school. I have love for storge, affection. It's a great, pervasive kind of love that everyone experiences. Then the next kind of love is, actually the next kind of love that like Lewis goes through, C.S. Lewis, is eros. So the next step is eros, which is the love of desire. And that's typically the one we think is the greatest, but for the Greeks, that was only the second from the bottom. It's still good, still very, very good. But it's the love of desire, and it's a love that is so good because what it does oftentimes is makes us want to get out of ourselves to be with the other. To get out of ourselves, be a gift for the other. Eros is also powerful because sometimes it makes us want to reach out of ourselves to take from the other. So Eros is very powerful. It's the love of desire, romantic love. So we have storge, Eros, E-R-O-S. The third kind of love is philia. Philia is brotherly love, or it means friendship. P-H-I-L-I-A. Philia. And so that Philadelphia, right, city of brotherly love. You have philia. Now, the Greeks would say that philia is the highest love that human beings can have without God. Christians would even say the same thing. The highest love you can have without God is philia. Because as we know, we have storge for almost anything. As we know, eros even can transfer from one person to another relatively quickly, unfortunately. But philia is so rare. Where you see in another person, kind of a second self. That when it comes to philia, you don't desire to possess the other person. You simply rejoice in their presence, or even rejoice at the thought of them. You rejoice in the fact that you're pursuing the same goal. So C.S. Lewis would say that in the course of a person's life, they would be lucky if they experienced philia once or maybe twice. So you'd be lucky if you experienced philia, true philia, once or maybe twice. Because if you have an image, storge is being kind of surrounded by people. It's all over the place. Eros is face-to-face, right? Because we know this about lovers. That lovers always want to, if you're in love or if you've been in love and you write a letter to the person you're in love with, typically you're talking about your love. Typically you're talking about how you feel for them. Typically you're talking about how awesome they are. So Eros is like face-to-face with the other person. But philia is side-by-side, shoulder-to-shoulder, racing after the same thing. And we all, I think, instinctually understand that philia is a really high kind of love because even those of us who have been in love, in eros, a lot of times you have people who say, yeah, but it's not just eros, like, I married my best friend, or I'm in love with my best friend. Because we realize that eros can be transferred to almost anybody, but that true philia is so rare. And so here's my spouse, and yes, we love each other, but you have to understand, we have this higher love. We have philia, we have true friendship. Now there's a fourth kind of love, and it's called agape. A-J-E-A. 12, 9, 30, A-G-A-P-E, agape, A-G-A-P-E, agape, which is self-sacrificial love, you might say it like that, or self-emptying love. Now, that wasn't very quick, that was taking time to establish that when John Paul II is saying man cannot live without love, I invite you to not just think eros, but to think of the classical definition of love. And I do not believe that it is written in your notes, so here's the classic definition of love. It has 3 parts to it. Actually, this is not the first time some of you have heard this. Pop quiz, class. What is love? Someone just, yeah.
To will the good of the other for the other's sake.
To will the good of the other. Well done. You get an A for the day. You get a gold star. To will the good of the other. To will the good of the other. To will the good of the other. You're all writing stuff. Like, why does he stop? Oh, he wants us to say something. So break this down. To will the good of the other. Really briefly. To will is more than just to want. To will is more than just like, yeah, I mean, I really want their good. To will is to actually choose. To choose. We'll talk about that later on. To will is to choose, not simply to desire or to want. The good is not, see, sometimes we think that love is to want the other. A lot of times that's what we boil it down to, right? Or we think it's like, yeah, to love someone is to want them. No, to love someone is to want their good. To want their good. I want the best for them. That's why in so many of the stories that we love, it's when that person is willing to say, you know what, I'll set you free if that'll make you happy. Versus the one who says, I don't care if that'll make you happy, I want to possess you still. And like, oh no, there's one that's higher than the other. So to love is to will the other's good. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is in order to know what another good is, you have to know what another is. You have to know what a thing is in order to know what's good for it. Because the amount of water that would nourish a cypress tree would drown a cactus. And you want to?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and what is good for maybe a dog is not good for a human. I used to have a Chihuahua named Burt Reynolds. We had him for 12 years. He went all over the world with us. And we lived down in the Caribbean. And I walked into the room one day and I saw him, he had devoured an entire diaper full of poo. He was licking it clean. I was trying to pull him away and he was fighting for one last, and I never looked him in the eye again, and then he got eaten by a boa constrictor. So I won.
Lesson.
Don't eat poo.
At least, not out of the diaper. Alright, that goes without saying. The will is to choose. The good is after know what a person is, or what a thing is, in order to know what's good for it. And the third part is of the other. And that's so essential for us to understand that love then is not about me. Love is not about how the other person makes me feel. Love is about the other. So those three parts of the definition of love: choose the good, not of myself, but of the other. To be a gift of myself for the other. That's the operating definition we're going to use. Whenever we talk about love, I invite you to think of that. That love is to will the good of the other, to choose the good of the other person. That's how God loves us. He wants, He chooses, He wills our good in a self-emptying way. That's the agape way. So in order to, this body as a theology. Here then, theology is the study of God. How can the body be a theology? We recognize this, that if I get what a human being is wrong, I will get the good wrong. So we say, like, if you were to look at a human being and say, what is a human being? You might say, we all know what a human being is. I mean, it's very obvious. But let's think about this. Different worldviews shape how we see, not just God, but how we see others. And how we see ourselves. So let's take 4 different worldviews. I'll do this really as briefly as I can. Imagine 4 different worldviews. How would these 4 different worldviews, let's say Hinduism, Buddhism, atheism, and Christianity, Catholicism, how would those 4 different worldviews see a human being? What would they look at when they looked at a human being? So if you were a Hindu, what would you recognize is you'd say, well, you've looked at a human being, you would say that human being is their soul, but they're not their body. Because in Hinduism, you believe in reincarnation, and so the body isn't them, the soul is them, the body is just the car they happen to be driving right now. In fact, I gave this presentation with some Hindus in the crowd, and at one point afterwards, this guy came up to me, and he's like, yes, I'm Hindu, and this and that, and I said, okay, so let me clarify, I was right? And I'm not misrepresenting. He said, oh no, absolutely. And he used the example, he said, here's an example you could use. I said, thank you, I will. And here I am, right now, using that example that he said. He said, imagine if you were in New York City and you wanted to drive to Los Angeles. You get in your car and drive. But if you got to Illinois in the middle of the drive, your car broke down, you wouldn't just stop right there. You'd get a new car and keep driving. If it broke down in Colorado, you wouldn't stop there, you'd get a new car, keep on driving. And you keep on getting a new car until you got to your destination. So the car isn't you. The car's not keeping you from getting where you need to. If it breaks down, you just get a new one. It's not essential to who you are. And that's how Hindus would view the person. You're your soul, you're not your body. Your body is just a shell. In fact, a lot of our ancestors, if you're Norse, Norwegians, would also say something very, very similar, that you're not your body. That's why they would have the burning of the body as in their funeral rites, is to let that soul escape from the shell or the cage of the body. So that's a Hindu way of looking at the world, or the human being. You're your soul, not your body. Now, Gautama Buddha was raised a Hindu, and at one point he was incredibly troubled by suffering in the world. Like, so moved by it that he realized, I have to do something to try to reduce suffering as much as possible. And his reasoning was this. He said, okay, so there's suffering out there. What's the source of suffering? Well, the source of suffering is I desire something that I don't have. I desire sleep and I don't have sleep. I desire food and I don't have food. I desire something I can't have. Okay, so the source of suffering is desire, unfulfilled. But what desires? He says, well, I desire. Okay, so if I can eliminate the self, I can eliminate desire. If I eliminate desire, I eliminate suffering. And so one of Buddha's insights, or one of his things that he proposed was, versus the Hindu who would say that you are your soul, you're not your body is just an illusion. Buddha would say that your body and your soul are an illusion. that neither of them are actually real in any real sense. And when you realize that you're an illusion, and that your body and soul are an illusion, then you're set free, you have enlightenment, and you're now free from suffering, free from being caged in the universe like this. So a Hindu would say, you're your soul, not your body. A Buddhist would say, you're neither your body nor your soul. How would an atheist look at the human being? Well, to an atheist, the whole world, all there is stuff. It's just matter. There's no soul. So if an atheist were to look at a human being, they would say, that's a body and nothing more. What about the mind? It's just a brain with chemical synapses and electrical things going on. That's all it is. So just a body, no soul. So think about those three worldviews looking at a human being. They all have consequences. To see a person as a soul but not their body has a definite consequence. To see a person as you're neither your body nor your soul, you're simply an illusion, has some consequences. And to say that a human being is simply a body, simply a collection of matter that has no soul, meaning has no higher purpose, has definite consequences to that. So the fourth view, the Catholic Christian view, that a human being is both body and soul. Both body and soul. And if that's true, then one of the things that means is, as we said at the beginning, you are your body. If that's true, that means you are your body, so therefore what you do with your body matters.
And they would go as far, John Paul II went as far as to say that the body reveals the person. That the body, and it alone, makes visible what is invisible. So even the invisible world, the grace and divinity and redemption and mercy and love, all of that, that's abstract, but it is made visible and imminent by the body. So the body reveals, so Ben, would you do me a favor? Would you stand up? This is my friend Ben. Everybody turn around, please. Yeah. There you go. Good job. So this is my friend Ben. Everybody look at Ben's body. Okay, so, I don't know if you noticed, you all laughed. First of all, that's cruel. He's a kind young man. You can sit down, go ahead. But notice I said look at his body and that made you laugh. Well, how else are you going to look at Ben? When we walk in, everybody said, hey, Nick's body's here, right? No, Nick is here, I'm here. But I am my body. Like, the body reveals that there's no other way to know anyone. There's no way to know anything but through this body. But this body reveals a greater reality, a deeper reality. And so the way a Christian, the way a Catholic would approach it, especially in theology of the body, is that, no, this body that that you say you're falling in love with, that you're attracted to, or that you're interacting with, this body reveals something way grander than what you see in front of you. It reveals the entire person. And so real love is going to strive to see past just the body and to see the whole person revealed.
And that quote is there. The body, in fact, it alone, as you know, is capable of making visible the invisible, the spiritual and the divine. You realize, you've never met a soul without a body. You've never met someone. You've never fallen in love with someone. You've never even just been with someone where the presence wasn't communicated to you. You've never learned anything except through your body. I don't know if you ever think about that. There's nothing you know that didn't come through your body. You saw something, you heard something, you tasted something, you felt something, you thought something. Your brain's part of your body, most of us. And so John Paul II, he said, as Christians, it's not a denial of the body. He says the body is the very logic of Christianity. The very logic of Christianity is what? Is that when God desired to save the world, we realize God's so powerful, right? He could have just been like, saved, call it saved. That you do, like, if you get up to leave. God's God. He can do whatever he wants. But that's not how he saved it. How did he save the world? He saved the world by taking on a body and living in that body and suffering in that body, dying in that body, and actually rising in that body. It's the very logic of Christianity that God gives us himself. He communicates himself to us and salvation to us and grace to us through the body. That's one of the reasons why we have sacraments. Like as Catholics, we have stuff. That stuff that you can touch with your body. It's not just happening in my mind, happening in my soul. It's the very logic of Christianity is God wants to communicate grace to us through stuff. His body. Now we wash the body. That's baptism. We anoint the body with oil. It's confirmation. We feed the body with his body and blood in the Eucharist. Like all these things, the logic of Christianity, it's not something that Catholics invented later on. It's like, no, this is how God wants us to come to know him in and through our bodies. Because why? Because that's exactly what he wants to reveal. He wants to reveal himself. And this is one of the, I think it's not one of the quotes we have, but I love the fact that in the Catechism, it says that Jesus reveals the innermost secret of God. And I remember when I first read it, I was like, wait, I want to know what the innermost secret of God is. And so if I were to say this to you, Jesus reveals the innermost secret of God, would you be like, yeah, what is that? Like, this is God who's infinite and eternal, all this. What's his innermost secret? You guys want to, do you want to know? Catechism says, the innermost secret of God is that he is an eternal exchange of love. I remember reading that and going like, wah, wah. Like, I was like, well, I thought it was a big secret. Everyone knows that, but not everyone knows that. In fact, it's only in Christianity that that's been revealed, that God is an eternal exchange of love. Because I'll talk to people all the time who say, well, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. Like, okay, you're not religious, but, well, what do you believe about God? Well, one of the things I believe is God is love. I'm like, yes, I do too. Where did you get that? Well, you just know it.